You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I'm your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair, Michael Liebowitz, who is also helming, along with Persephone, this amazing channel, The Rational Alternative. Michael, tell me what's going on as I sit here with 5 more days, I think, to go here in the dark continent of Europe.
Like a week ago, you said 6 more days. I don't understand.
What's the date today?
How the hell do I know? June 5th.
I have 4 more days to go.
Okay. Well, I'm enjoying a nice cup of Joe, first of all, right now. I'm having coffee rather than water. Also, I'm hoping because
that counts, by the way. That counts, by the way, for hydration. I just want you to know.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does, actually.
No,
According to Dr. Gundry, he said it's bullshit.
Who the hell is he?
Okay, he's a guy that I pay attention to now with respect to lectins and leaky gut syndrome, all this stuff. He's composed diets that enable you to deal with leaky gut,
okay.
And he talks about coffee, the water in coffee, also going towards the amount of water that you can drink to hydrate yourself. It's not the dehydrating thing. That's what he says.
Okay, but why are we trusting this guy above everybody else?
I like what he has to say.
What the hell does that mean?
I like his glasses. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we're gonna do this. Of course, I have to get out of here a little bit early today because I have an interview at 1:00. I'm interviewing a statistics expert on his book Wrong Numbers, a guy named Aaron Brown. I should have that up on the Rational Egoist tonight, and also, what the hell else was I gonna? 2:30 p.m. Eastern time today, we've got Everyday Ethics with Persephone, and I'm going to try to rope Persephone into doing crime corrections and culture today at 3:15 p.m. Eastern time because I had a miss yesterday because I had to work, and I've changed the name of the show. I don't know if Persephone knows that yet. She does. So we got a lot going on, Mark. If you become a member of our channel, by the way, you get all kinds of extra benefits. You get what are they, like shorts that you and I do? We do shorts. We do short videos. We put them out there. We're going to be putting extra content on if I can ever get Persephone to focus for a few minutes. So
don't forget the merch.
Can I get to it?
When?
Well, we've got merch available also on the website. Plus, now I forgot what I was going to say. Super chats and super stickers. Yeah, that's it. Mark, we got a lot going on in the world. And I've told people to bring their questions because it's Open Question Friday.
Good. And also, are we streaming anywhere right now besides YouTube?
No, we're not. We're not even streaming. We're just having a private discussion for Persephone to watch. Yes, no, I'm kidding. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on X. We're streaming on Twitch. And you can go check us out on Spotify. We've got, and members get discounts on merch, Persephone says.
That's good. I think that's so. So, yes, we have a lot going on in the world, Michael. What did you want to discuss today? And hopefully people brought questions. We will answer almost any question, folks. It doesn't necessarily have to be.
We already have a question. I guess that I'm paying attention, but you're not.
Okay, go ahead. What is it?
But why is the question in the private chat but not in the regular chats? This is confusing to me because I just happened to look in the private chat, which I very rarely do. So Nicole Hingle wants to know what our thoughts are on mail-in ballots. I don't give a shit. I got to be honest. I don't care. I think that this whole voting thing is really much ado about nothing. I think voter fraud is very limited. I just don't care. I think I'm far more concerned about what people vote for than the method by which they vote. And like, if you got rid of mail-in balloting tomorrow, I don't think we'd get any closer to a free society. I don't think it makes any difference. It may favor one side over the other. I don't know, but I really don't care about either side. You know what I mean, Mark? So what's your thoughts on this?
I like voting to be a little bit difficult. I like people to come on a day. I like them to go to the ballot box on that day, and that to be the final tally. For people who are out of the country who can't make it on the voting day, of course, they could have something, a mailed-in ballot, of course, service people who are working out of the country. But for people in the country, I think you got to jump through some hoops, man. That's the least you could do as a citizen of the United States. Is to be politically active, is to work at it a bit. So I'm for the old school 1-day elections. Go to the ballot box or don't. And I'm not for this radical democratization of the country where we think everybody has to have a political say. It's one of the reasons I think we're in the stew that we're in. But you're right, Michael. Given the fact that most of society has adopted altruism and some version of socialistic politics, I don't think we'd be any better off just because less of them are voting.
So Ian Gilmore said, well, let's start with evidence that significant fraud is happening, then argue about what should be done about it. Yeah, I don't think significant fraud's happening. But I don't think that fraud is the only reason to govern how you vote. I just think that it's far less important of an issue than most people make out of it. I mean, even if you did what Mark said, for instance, let's say that we made voting very difficult. Unless you're going to make it so difficult that only people who agree with me can vote, which would be very unconstitutional, I don't see the problem being solved. People have to what's the word I'm looking for? Have to learn the ideas, learn the policies, and learn what to promote. We have a very controversial question here. I may get, I want to answer this, but I may get into some trouble, Mark. So you might want to distance yourself from me when I answer this question.
Why the fuck would I want to do that? I like trouble.
All right. Who's he?
It depends on who's right.
No, this guy Trouble that you have a thing for. Who is he?
Trouble. Nice guy. He's a nice guy. He's one of my best friends.
All right. So Straker A wants to know what is the best way to get involved in the objectivist movements. He says there's so many different organizations promoting it, but I can't decide which one to affiliate with. I am going to suggest that you affiliate with none. Straker A, I would highly suggest that you read Ayn Rand, you read Leonard Peikoff, you learn the philosophy, and then you do whatever you can to promote it. That's what I would say. This channel is not affiliated with any part of the objectivist movement. We're not affiliated with ARI, with, because Ian Gilmore said, so should we leave this channel? Watching this channel is not being affiliated with it.
Yeah, I want to say I agree with Michael's independent stance, but I like ARI. I think a number of the intellectuals there are pretty good. Even though we've had some differences with them on certain topics, they can get you started in the right direction. They can certainly help you with things you don't understand or haven't been able to work your way through on your own. They can at least provide what I think Michael had when he was in prison, a great sounding board in the form of his cellmate to discuss ideas with, which hopefully you come to conclusions on your own, but there's certainly a wealth of material there for you to help you. But in the end, I think you should be unaffiliated and independent. But use them, Michael. There's intellectuals there. They're not bad. Many of them are very good. I love Ilan Journo. I love your own book.
I'm saying what I think.
I love your own.
What I think?
Hold on, let me finish. I love your own book. And Ilan Journo, and I love Aaron Smith. Those intellectuals are really great for me. I love Keith Lockledge. Who's
Aaron Smith?
He's a philosopher. He taught at.
Aaron Smith. Yeah, I'm thinking Tara Smith. Yeah,
and I love Tara as well.
Okay. God damn it! This is going to cause so much trouble. I generally don't care, but okay. So let's just start with facts. Okay, I was asked a question. I feel I have to answer it. My integrity demands it. Persephone's looking at me like she's very nervous. Ayn Rand said that nobody had the right to establish an organization in her name, period. She said nobody had the right to speak for her, period. While she was alive, she said if anybody attempted to do so, she would take legal action. Clearly, she did not want any of these organizations popping up. She said, if you want to start a little community group, basically, if a discussion group with your friends, whatever, that's fine. But she wanted no larger organizations doing it. And now I want people to think about something. These organizations don't limit themselves to philosophy. They discuss current events. Current events that Ayn Rand never had a chance to see, never had a chance to evaluate. We have no way of knowing in 2026, for instance, in the current context, what Ayn Rand would think about the Iran war, what she would think about immigration. And those are just two. I understand what that guy did, Ian. I disagree with it. I don't know. I mean, I respect him. I like him. I think he's great. But I think he was wrong here. I get he decided otherwise. But when you have Ayn Rand Institute and you are doing podcasts that are addressing current events, right? It's implicit, in my view, that you're representing objectivism, even if you say, no, you're not. I think they are. And therefore, I personally wouldn't affiliate with any of them. Now, that's not to say that the people there are bad people, right? Or that they're not good philosophers. Jerome Brook, I think, is great. I've interviewed Aaron Smith. I thought he was great. I interviewed Don Watkins. Thought he was great.
Love Don.
But so Ian Gilmore kind of wants to have an argument with me. He said the people at ARI agree with all that. They go overboard to make it clear they are attempting to apply her philosophy, not speaking for her. Okay, that's fine. It's still called the Ayn Rand Institute. They still have Ayn Rand University, both of which we can know from her own comments that she would oppose. It's not a stretch to think that people see that and think that that represents objectivism. The very question here was about objectivist groups and the objectivist movement and, where he should affiliate with. So clearly in people's minds, they take these as objectivist organizations. I personally just don't think that there should be any. That's my view. My view is based on her own statements and the fact that it's impossible to know what she would have thought or wanted related to today. She also said something to the effect of, you'll know that you're a thinker. This is a paraphrase. It's not an exact quote. When you stop quoting me and speak for yourself, right? Look, I love Ayn Rand. She changed my life. I mean, I've got egoist tattooed here, self-made man tattooed here. I, by and large, agree with the philosophy and live by it. But a question was asked me directly, and I'm not going to I feel like my own integrity demands that I answer it. What's his name here? Staker says he's been studying the philosophy for 3 years. He wants to take the leap from individual study to practice in meeting like-minded people. Maybe just start with Ocon. Sure.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, I understand your desire to be in a community of people who value similar things to you. It's certainly better than being the odd man out. At least it might feel a little bit better.
So
I want to, when you get done saying what you wanted to say, I want to address something that Ian Gilmore says too.
Okay, so Mr. Deagle says, how do you spread philosophy without any organization? Okay, the problem is you're assuming that the organizations actually spread the philosophy. I'm not, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not saying that they get it wrong. I don't have evidence that mass people in these organizations are just getting philosophy wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when you have organizations that call themselves, it's not just those three. Those are the ones that I know of. You have Ayn Rand, South America, Ayn Rand this, Ayn Rand that. And how do you know that they're actually spreading the philosophy? I mean, Atlas Society clearly isn't. We have Liquid Zulu, who calls himself an objectivist. He's clearly not spreading the philosophy. And there's probably a lot more examples that I don't know about. So how do you spread the philosophy is, well, first of all, you don't have to run around saying, I want to spread objectivism. You debate the ideas, you put the ideas forward, you discuss them, and you give credit where it's due. That's what I think. Jim Valiant says, and I know I said I wouldn't answer one before you, but I want to just tell Jim. I do know that in their statement on schisms, the Ayn Rand Institute said that they actually quote Ayn Rand's desire to have no organization speaking for her. And they said, so we don't speak, what we say is not necessarily objectivism. Okay, Mark, go ahead.
So Ian Gilmore says that with respect to voting, the problem is that the U.S. has a significant history of vote suppression, and that's used against minorities, making it difficult to vote, has a bad history. Yes, that is true. But now with the spoils system democracy, we have about 40% of the population that doesn't pay taxes. They have no skin in the game. Many of these people are voting away your property. And until we find a way to separate economics and government, I don't think people who don't have skin in the game, who are not paying taxes, and who are receiving taxpayer money in the form of subsidies that are being taken from other people, I don't think they should necessarily. It should be hard for them to vote. If you can't outright say since they don't have skin in the game, they can't vote, it should be harder for them to vote. Now, that's a very different thing than banning minorities because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity. All of that stuff is nonsense. But somebody having a real investment in a real stake in the country and the political course of the country, and not an interest in taking your stuff by political fiat, that's important. And those are two distinct things to me.
Yeah.
There's currently debate regarding aborting fetuses with Down syndrome. What's your position? Do you have a position on that? Have you heard of that debate?
Yeah, basically what they do is it's I'm going to probably butcher the word, but the chromosome that tells you if you've got if the kid has Down syndrome is trisomy 21. So what people say is if you know that the kid is going to have Down syndrome, that you should be able to abort it. I'm pro-choice, so I don't see an issue with it.
Yeah, I don't think fetuses have rights. I think the woman has the right over her body and all that is inside of her body until birth. To be honest with you, that's my position. And it's her life, and looking down the road, if she thinks it would be an extremely difficult burden that she could not sustain, then of course she has a right to refuse to do it. So
this happened to me again just now with this freaking my phone open, so it's typing what I'm saying. So this is going to be the last thing I want to say on this, and then we can get to more questions or stories. Ian Gilmore says, do you know Stephen Hicks? He's asking someone in the audience. He never mentions Ayn Rand, uses her work extensively. I'm a fan of Stephen Hicks. His book, Explaining Postmodernism, I think is phenomenal.
Very good.
I interviewed him. I also think he's wrong about objectivism being an open philosophy.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes the point again about the problem with having organizations touting that they're teaching objectivism. Okay. Do we have any questions here? Do we have any
I mean,
questions?
Ian, I'm going to agree with you that I think valuable work is done out of ARI, but Rand did say what Michael's saying. So, get the whatever benefit you can out of it. I want the concept, the rational philosophy to spread more. That's for sure. So I think we do that best by putting our ideas out there. First of all, digesting them, making them your own, and then debating people who have other ideas and seeing who wins. That's how we win hearts and minds, I think.
All right. Do you want to get to a story, or do we have any more questions?
There's some questions here, Michael. How did Stoicism spread? How did Taoism spread? Pretty sure they didn't need 501c and nonprofits. That's true. That's true. But they did have, look, Platonism spread because there was the academy. Aristotelian philosophy spread, well, primarily because of Thomas Aquinas later on, but there was the Lyceum. So early on, they had academies that spread their perspectives. And of course, when you have an emperor of Rome who writes a famous meditation on Stoicism, that can be very effective at spreading the word, particularly since Stoicism was picked up by the Christian church and it is an effective sort of sidecar to Christianity. What were you going to say?
Well, it's also I want to comment on what's going on here, but it's also been heavily bastardized and passed into pop culture by Ryan Holiday in his book on Stoicism.
And William Irving, too.
Yeah, we definitely don't want that happening with Objectivism. Akira Felix says, it's late. Boy, have you missed out, dude. Sorry. So Ian Gilmore says, are you guys going to avoid the Ayn Rand Center they are building in Austin? First of all, I didn't know they were building one. And secondly, no, I'm not going to avoid anybody. I'm not going to avoid anybody from ARI. I'm not going to avoid the Objective Standard Institute. I don't think these are horrible people. A question was just asked about organizations, so I gave my view on organizations. I would certainly interview many people from ARI, Objective Standard Institute. I would certainly, be willing to interview Hicks again. I've interviewed Richard Salzman in the past. Robert Trzynski, I like a lot. He's at the Atlas Society.
Love Robert Trzynski.
Yeah, so I'm not going to avoid anybody. I shouldn't say anybody, of course. I'm saying, but based on these organizations, the question was asked, which one should somebody affiliate with? And my answer is, if you're asking my opinion, I would say none, and I gave my reasons.
Yeah, and I've done voiceover work for ARI. I was in on the ground floor creating the museum that they're putting together with respect to ARI. I recommended the writer that they should use. They rejected it, Michael, unfortunately, because the writer is essentially a comedy writer. He's brilliant. He has a degree in philosophy, and he's one of the funniest guys I know. I think humor is a good way to introduce philosophy to the world. They didn't think that. They thought it somehow cheapened the philosophy. So they're going another way. But I was sort of in on the ground floor of that. And I can't wait to see what they do with it in Austin. So I still like all the guys there, but I still think you should be your own person. CRISPR cannot fix Down syndrome in the womb right now. Researchers have made incredible laboratory breakthroughs. The technology is not ready for use in pregnant women. Okay, good point. So we say that a woman's right to choose is sacrosanct. A question: when can Mark share details of his role in Vought Rising? When it comes out, and I think now the trailer that they put out there has somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 million views. It's doing very well. I think Amazon Prime is excited about the show. I think they have a lot of CGI to do, so the show isn't going to be coming out until 2027, which is just aggravating for me, Michael, because back in the day, you did 23 episodes of television. You found out by about episode 15 or 16 whether you were going to get re-upped for the next season. And then they had the summer to come up with storylines and or to fill in season 2, and then you went to work again. So you were more or less, working constantly. Now you do a season and you wait 18 to 20 months before you know if you're even going to get a season 2. And so that's a lot of downtime. I mean, with American Rust, we were with Showtime. Showtime dropped us. We waited for a year. Then we were picked up by Prime. They wrote the best season I think they ever wrote for season 2. I thought it was a shoo-in for a season 3, and we got dropped. I think it was because of Fallout. That's just me.
What would you think about me getting a tattoo, Mark Pellegrino's companion?
I think you would regret that shortly after you got it.
All right. why don't we talk about a story? Do you have a story we could talk about? I certainly sent you some stuff.
Yeah, you know what? The article in Reason Magazine, I really liked this. After 40 years, no one has produced a workable single payer healthcare plan. I like this, Michael, because I don't think I ever looked at it from this perspective. Like, we know that Americans pay a lot for healthcare, and we've probably talked about it on the show a number of times, why that is, how it's a mixture of state controls and state sanctioned monopolies, and there's no real free market here. And you know, the demographics are such that we use the services quite a bit more, you know, and so the prices are just crazy right now. It seems that the private health industry has about $32 trillion, or about 20% of our GDP, and there is no possible way to completely make this taxpayer funded, or to fund it through a public, to distill this $32 trillion through the public without raising taxes an incredible amount. So there's really no workable solution. And it juxtaposed our system along with systems in Europe that started from the ground up with very small demographics, homogeneous populations, and rationing care amongst much smaller populations than our 300 million, Michael. And so they're sort of able to do it, but still they develop two-tiered systems. There's a private system that functions on the side because the socialized system doesn't really function that well. And there's just no way we can incorporate $32 trillion into a new tax structure that people are going to accept. What say you to this?
Well, so this economist, Jessica Reed, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Jessica Riedel, put out a challenge, I believe in 2018. Somebody please show how this is affordable, this single payer system. And nobody has been able to produce how to do it. And, you know, the article makes some points here. Vermont, I guess, tried it and had to go away from it. It didn't work there. 3 years, and that was it. She talked about how comparing us to European countries that do it is a big mistake. Those countries, you know, started from the ground up with their organizations, with their, you know, healthcare systems, took a long time to do it. And they make this point about in the bills, you know, Bernie Sanders basically puts it on somebody else, and the manager will decide, and the manager will figure it out, and, you know, that kind of language there. I mean, ultimately, it's just not. If all you want to do, like, we could forget about the disincentives, the market distortions, the rights violations that are occurring, all that stuff, right? And just focus on whether on their own terms it's affordable, the answer seems to be no, because it seems to me that somebody would step up to answer this challenge if they could do it. It's a terrible, terrible idea. And, you know, my main objection to it is it's an assault on individual rights, but, you know, it's also very uneconomical.
Yeah, but Michael, people are married to it in a way because it's altruistic. They love the idea, and they love the idea that costs are diffused through the taxpaying public. So the beneficiary never really feels the pinch. But I got to tell you, I've been in two countries that have socialized medicine, and we're hearing, of course, from Persephone, who has it in South Africa.
Yeah, but that's not really a country.
That's true. So in France, I had one of the worst experiences I've ever had with any medical system when I had to be hospitalized because I had an experience of tachycardia. And I was plunged into a room with 30 other people lined up against a wall in gurneys in various states of decay and sickness, and stranded there for about 7 hours, saying to somebody in French if I could leave. And I couldn't leave for a while. They also misdiagnosed me. They did an EKG. They said I didn't have tachycardia. When I took that EKG to my doctor back in the States, he said, "This is definitely tachycardia." I don't know what they were saying. So, and then to add insult to injury, Michael, sitting there for 7 hours or so in this disgusting, in these disgusting conditions with people from all over the world around me, spewing out God knows what out of their orifices all around me. I got 3 bills in the mail, of course, because I don't have a carte vitale like my wife does. So I had to pay for these services. Now, I have to put this in context. I had another episode and I went to the American Hospital in Paris, which is a for-profit hospital. I paid a one-time fee. I was seen in 15 minutes. I got medication for my heart arrhythmia. I was sent on my way, perfectly happy. The bill for the American Hospital in Paris, the for-profit hospital, turned out to be cheaper than the three bills, successive bills I had to pay for the socialized system in France. And here's another thing. In Canada, you have to go through the medical system there all the time. If you're working in Canada, sometimes you have to get physicals and stuff from doctors there. You walk into some of these health clinics that they have scattered all over the cities in Canada, and you see the waiting rooms are overcrowded. There's one doctor to see people. He has about 30 to 45 seconds with each person. He looks fucking miserable. I get to jump to the top of the line. Why, Michael? Because I'm paying cash and I have I'm a part of a cast. And so I get to jump to the top of the line. The people in the waiting room see me jumping to the top of the line and they look like they want to eat me for breakfast. This is the socialized medical system, which I have paid into it to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars in Canada, Michael. And I've never used it except to go to these clinics to get, either the COVID test that I had to get for a while or to get some kind of physical for insurance approval. Otherwise, I haven't. And there in Canada, they have a 2-tiered system as well.
I have a pain in my right elbow on the outer part of the bone. It feels like a bruise or something. Is that tennis elbow? Like, what the hell is that?
No,
what is it?
No.
What would have caused it? Why is it hurting me?
I don't know. You might have bumped it. You might have some inflammation in there. Take an Advil.
Okay. I know not to take an Advil now.
Actually, that's true because it's ibuprofen. It's probably not very good for you. Thank you, Nicole Hingle, for the $10 super sticker.
Thank you, Nicole. I got to tell you, though, I mean, if it's inflammation, an anti-inflammatory might be the way to go, no?
No. Inflammation is, if it's really painful and it's preventing you from doing a task, you can do it temporarily. But those kinds of anti-inflammatory, Persephone, listen to me. I'm saying something good here. Those kinds of anti-inflammatories are actually preventing your body from healing, because the inflammatory response in those joints is your body sending fluids and blood to that area to heal the area, Michael.
Okay, so my thing here is this. It seems like maybe you're into a little bit too much of the alternate views of medicine. I got to be honest. A little while ago, what the hell were you recommending to me at the beginning?
Zicam. I recommended Zicam,
No.
which anybody here on who's listening to us right now has probably taken Zicam in their lifetime, and it's
not Zicam.
It shortened the length of a cold.
It was on the beginning of the episode. We were talking about something, and you told me to. I forgot now. Persephone, what the hell was it? Put it in the chat so I can remember this. We were talking about something, and Mark said he believes this doctor.
Dr. Gundry.
Yeah. What was that all about?
He's discovered a lot of systemic inflammation is caused by leaky gut syndrome. So,
no, but wait, that's not what we were talking about. What were we talking about?
What was it, Persephone? Is something I don't do now, or something I eat now? What was it? Something I forget. I'll remember it in a little bit.
Yeah. Anyways, Mr. Deagle says Dr. Gundry is a wacko.
That's one man's wacko is another man's savior, my friend.
Because I said to you, why are we listening to this guy as opposed to
and I
coffee.
Told you why.
This is what it was.
Oh yeah,
Mark told me that
you're not dehydrating yourself.
Yeah, Mark told me that coffee is actually a hydrator, not the dehydrator.
I didn't say it was a hydrator.
You did.
I said the water counts for hydration. I didn't say hydrating.
What does that mean? If it counts as hydration,
it counts. It just counts.
But what if it's not a hydrator? Then what does it count for?
Don't make fun of Mark. It's no longer funny. Okay, that's what Akira Felix says.
Okay, so we just start making fun of Akira because of his poor grammar?
Yes, that's fine. Look, I told you my impeccable standard for liking Dr. Gundry.
No,
right?
no.
I told you my impeccable standard.
No, I know, but Persephone says, doesn't any liquid technically count? Yes, drink gasoline and that'll dehydrate you.
Water.
Yes,
Counts
any
as water.
liquid will do. Let's go out and get ourselves some cough syrup, mix it with some oil, throw it down.
Water. The water mixed in the coffee does count as a kind of. It's not. You're not dehydrating yourself.
Every doctor I've ever talked to told me that's not true.
Right, and as every doctor I've ever talked to, Persephone. I want to clear this with Persephone. My standard for judging Dr. Gundry is his stylish glasses. Every time he does a commercial, he's wearing a different pair of glasses. That's what makes him a cool doctor to me. All right, let's move on.
Okay. Well, the next thing was, so there was a story today in Dispatch about. Let me just make sure I get it. The first thing was about that Hezbollah is refusing the ceasefire with Israel. After the Iranians insisted that they be a part of it, Hezbollah is saying, no, we want no parts of this. Specifically, the Secretary General of the Iran-supported Lebanese terrorist group Hezbollah publicly rejected the latest U.S.-backed ceasefire agreement between Israel and the Lebanese government, calling for an end to direct negotiations with Israel and for complete Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon. So that was interesting, but what really interested me was this, and I'm not really sure, but I figure we could talk, about this a little bit. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the United Nations nuclear watchdog, determined that there have been no major changes to its assessment of Iran's nuclear capabilities to the start of this war in February. So I was curious. I mean, I went and I listened to the guy that was talking about it from the agency there. I read some stuff from over there, and I asked AI, and it seems that what they're saying basically is nothing has changed regarding their nuclear capability since the start of this war. In other words, this war has done nothing to degrade their nuclear capability. The one thing they did say, now that seems fishy to me. I'm not. Well, I'll get to why I think it's fishy in a minute. But also that since the war started, now people have the IAEA has less access to know what Iran is actually doing with their nuclear material, so it might actually have a sort of backfire effect. Now, I don't necessarily trust what the IAEA says. I'm not somebody that believes everything that the intelligence experts say, but if we're going to have a conversation, then, I mean, unless we just throw up our hands and say, well, fuck it, we can't know anything, we have to go by what they say. What I find happens a lot of the time is people will say something like, Iran enriched their uranium to 60%. And then when you point out, okay, but the same people that said that also said that they're not pursuing a weapon. And then they say, oh, but I don't believe them on that. And I just don't know how you're going to pick and choose which aspects of the intelligence you're going to buy 100%, right? I'm skeptical of it all, right? But I'm certainly not going to privilege one part of it over another based on what my view is. For instance, it's no secret I oppose the war. I could say, you know what? I don't believe they were enriched their uranium to 60%. That seems far-fetched to me. I do believe, however, that they're not pursuing a nuclear weapon. And quickly everybody would see how ridiculous a point of view that was. That's my take on the whole thing. What do you think?
Michael, I mean, I really don't care. I got to tell you,
Mark doesn't care, folks. Time to go home.
This will never be resolved. They're never going to give up whatever fissile material they have that's enriched to 60%. They're going to keep using that as a lever of negotiations, and Trump will not be able to answer it. The solution to this problem would have been regime change. It would have ended Hezbollah as we know it, and so Israel would have taken care of its problem in Lebanon, and we would have taken care of the world's problem with Iran But that is simply not going to happen, and they aren't going to relinquish the weapons. If anything, Michael, I think this war and United States vacillation has made the conservative hardliners much more intent upon getting a nuclear deterrent against the United States. And they've probably made some converts in the world with respect to that. Russia's watching, China's watching. Both are in the shits themselves, and could use to lift their standing up in the world. You're wondering why I say they're in the shits themselves?
Yes. What does it mean?
Well, because China is in a real estate free fall, a currency free fall. They're having a demographic crisis. They're really in a lot of trouble. They don't show that face to the world, of course, and the commies who are here show all the infrastructure that they build and the Potemkin cities that they've built. But they're really they're really a paper tiger. And of course, Russia's been in a wartime economy for 6 or 7 years now. Whatever production they have is made to be broken over in the Ukraine. They produce absolutely nothing anymore. And they've lost about 1.3 million human beings to that war. That's an incredible drain of labor and intelligence and potential creativity and productivity for that country. So they're on the skids too, but they could lift their prestige by helping Iran get to a nuclear weapon in a year. I think that's what they said. The timetable is somewhere in a year. I don't trust that anybody in the United States or even in Europe has the political stomach to actually stop the Iranians from doing what they're going to do.
Want to hear a funny story?
Sure. Oh, but there was a question I want to answer too at some point. So yeah.
All right, go ahead. You answer the question. That's more important than my funny story.
No, I'll find it. I have to find it first. Because I won the debate, by the way, on the hydration and the coffee. Just so you know.
I don't think you actually did. I don't trust Persephone. The Persephone as the source is about as good as Dr. Darby or whatever the hell his name is.
Persephone is the most trustworthy person in this panel, my friend.
All right, I'm gonna have to go and do some research myself. But I'll tell you a funny story. What?
Okay.
Well, answer the question. The
question was: is anti-Zionism anti-Semitism?
No.
Well, I disagree. It said somebody answered in theory, no. In practice, yes. If you're an anti-Zionist, basically you're against Jewish self-determination and basically having a safe space where they can govern themselves and where it's legal to protect themselves, to defend themselves, because they've been pogromed out of 109 countries. There's a history of mass murdering them. I do think they have a right to self-determination. I do think they should have a safe space in order to live. And about 85 to 90% of the Jews feel the same way. So attacking the philosophical system that says they should remain existing on this planet and have a safe place to do so is also attacking them. So I would say it is.
Okay, and I would say that no, it's not. I think that criticizing Israel is not the same thing as criticizing Jews. I will say this. I think there's a lot of people out there that are anti-Semites that hide behind, no, we're just criticizing Israel, we're not criticizing Jews. They use it as an excuse.
And it's a dog whistle for a number of people, for sure.
So in essence, I think Ian Gilmore really puts his finger on something. In theory, no. In practice, yes. But I mean, I know Jews that are very smart people that are not supporters of Israel, that are not anti-Semites. So I know that not just in theory, but in practice, there are people who oppose them. Now, you could say, well, they're wrong, whatever, but that doesn't make them Jew haters.
Correct. Although there are some who would say there's self-hating Jews out there that align themselves.
Very well, maybe, but the people I'm talking about are not.
Align themselves with the anti-Semites in order to ingratiate themselves to these people.
I mean, so let's look at my friend Sheldon Richman. Sheldon Richman is a very big critic of Israel. Also heavily critiqued the Mises Institute when they platformed somebody who was basically a Holocaust denier. Who
did they platform?
I can't remember the guy's name.
That Navy SEAL cat?
No, I don't remember his name. You could find it. It's easy enough. But the guy what Sheldon came out and said, how dare the organization named after the great man, platform this guy. He's a truth seeker. I've seen Sheldon in real life change his views when new information comes in. It's just he doesn't fit that. And to be perfectly honest, while I think that there's truth to the idea that most anti-Zionist or anti-Israel, it's a lot of anti-Semitism.
Well, they're anti-Semitism, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it can be very intellectually lazy. Just if somebody criticizes Israel, oh, you're an anti-Semite, rather than actually address the intellectual arguments, assuming there are some. If there aren't, well, that's a different story altogether.
Yeah, I address the arguments. I've yet to address many people on social media who are anti-Zionists who are not anti-Semites at the same time. They do base their anti-Zionism on a massive conspiracy theory, usually on the protocols of the Elders of Zion. Mr. Deagle says the fundamentalist Jews are also against Israel. This is true, not for any rational reason, though, but because they think when the Messiah comes, that's when they're supposed to go to Judea-Samaria again. So they have a different orientation towards the scripture, but just as scary, just as dangerous. Look, there are parts of Israel, Michael, where the fundamentalists will throw rocks at your car if you're driving your car through the streets on the Sabbath. There are some of these folks who have an extreme nationalistic fervor through them, and they go into the West Bank and they occupy land there, and they do kick people out of their homes, and they do foment violence. My perspective with respect to that is fundamentalist religious people suck. They just suck. They're violent because their orientation is around faith, is grounded in faith and mysticism. They are not open to reason. And so the only recourse you have with people like that is violence. And the only recourse they have with people like you or I, if we disagree with them, is violence. So yeah, the extreme Orthodox Jews are scary folks. And you know what, Michael, the unfortunate thing for Israel is it is founded upon a few contradictions. And those contradictions, make the argument for it being one of the great democracies of the world a little bit difficult to substantiate from time to time, because they are trying to maintain their Jewish character. And in order to do that, they have to allow into its population a segment of the population that is extremely religious, extremely zealous, extremely irrational, and not oriented towards other people and rival religions as the secular Jews are in Israel. So there are some real problems there that I think are unsolvable.
Okay, so let me tell about my quick funny story. Then we're going to give a quick statement on AI, and then I got to go. So I made a post on Facebook today. I said, "You'll never catch me in a lie, and that should matter." My friend John said, "Do you swear?" The reason he said that, this is a funny story. So when we were 17 years old, we went over to a girl's house, and one of the scams we used to run is one person would go in the room and fool around with the girl, and the other guys would rob her blind. So, so we stole. They had this expensive phone and some colognes and stuff, and we stole all that stuff, and we left and we went home. So shortly thereafter, the police showed up, and they're in the basement, and they want to search around, and I'm like, "No, you're not searching around." So the cops are in the basement. So my father comes downstairs, and he says, "What's going on?" And they said, "Well, there's been a phone stolen, some colognes, some stuff." My father looks at me, and he says, "Mike, did you steal the stuff?" I said, "No." He said, "Do you swear?" I said, "Yeah, I swear." He said, "Okay, officer, he didn't do it. Will you be leaving through the garage?" So my friend John will frequently say to me, "Do you swear?" That's behind that. So, there's an article in Reason Magazine, do you trust the government to be involved in AI? And the answer to that for me is no, I do not. I'm certainly not an expert in AI. I certainly think that governments have roles to protect rights, but allowing governments to make decisions over what AI does and what they don't do, I think is heading down a very dangerous road. Because if it's dangerous for the AI people to make decisions, it just seems to me giving that role to government, not a great idea.
Yeah, that's right. At least in a private corporation, Michael, whatever damage is done is fairly limited within the economy. But when the government systematizes it, it becomes general. So, yeah, and Bernie Sanders is trying to introduce a bill where they're going to take a 50%
Yeah.
stake in these companies, which means that they will have controlling shares. Look, he's claiming this is for the people, and the people have now an ownership stake in the direction that AI takes. That's never the way it goes. The state has an ownership stake. The state will decide where it goes, and people like Bernie Sanders will be the one who decides what priorities are to lead AI development. And that's the last person I want to decide priorities with respect to AI. Leave it alone. Certainly, we have to come up with the kinds of property protections that people would need under these new conditions. So that's the appropriate place for legislature to be. Otherwise, let it go. And there's probably some reasonable safeguards with respect to national security and how these things, how it's going to be used with respect to a defense, because I'm sure it will exponentially increase our capacity for self-defense. And that's legitimate. We just don't want to turn into the surveillance state that China is, and we don't want to give the government the power to do that.
All right, so let me go over the question, the answer to the question, and then, so Mark, give us an advertisement in your best supernatural voice.
An advertisement
Yeah,
for
for the channel. I
for
was gonna
for the
say for the
rational
station,
alternative.
but yeah.
Look, guys, in an irrational world, you want the rational alternative. And what is that? It's right here, where home of the capitalist corner, where you get to see individualists talking about rational egoism and about free society and what that would mean for you and I. So come visit us every single day, multiple times a day. There's lots of shows here for you to enjoy.
So I asked if the audience thought the people who were wrong about Iran would ever admit it, and Akira Felix gave the only answer, and that was no. Okay, now you got to give the capitalist thought of the day.
All right, folks, we all want to be free. We're tired of being under the thumb of statist tribes, and the only solution to that is well, the liberalism that capitalism is based on. So the capitalist society is one in which the individual is left free to choose in every aspect of their lives. And they have full property protection. So we want to return to that if we ever had it, and we want to progress our understanding of rights so that we can be even freer in the future.
Awesome. Two questions that I'm going to ask. One is for Jeanette specifically. What are you saying that we don't think is going on? That's my question for Jeanette. And my question for the audience is, who played the best devil in television or movies? And be honest, who played the best devil? All right, Mark, take us out.
All right, guys, we'll see you on Monday. So that gives you a whole weekend to check your premises. So do that. Do that little piece of homework. Check your premises. Peace.